Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, a lot of you know who Paul Enenche is, but if you do not know who Paul Enenche is, then I shall tell you exactly who Paul Enenche is. But before I tell you who Paul Enenche is, I shall play you this clip first, and then we shall come back and I'll tell you exactly who Paul Enenche is. So there you saw on that clip Paul Enenche arriving at Makurdi on his private jet. Makurdi being the capital of Benue State, Benue State being the state of origin of Paul Enenche. So now let's add a bit of background to this fella. So Paul Enenche was born in a place called Otokwe in Benue State. He's from a prominent family. His father was a paramount ruler. His brother, a prominent member of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Paul Enenche himself, trained as a medical doctor, but then on one sunny afternoon he went up the hill in Plateau State in Jos, and then when he came back from that hill he had a revelation that led him to ministry. So he started up a church, and he's named that church Dunamis International Gospel Ministry. Dunamis International Gospel Ministry. He established this church in 1996. So that's the background, and there's a bit more detail to be added on. But before we add on those details, I'll play you another clip, and then we'll come back again. I will expand on this fella.
Wickedness. This is wickedness. The land does not belong to the church. It belongs to an individual. This is the Mighty Mansion up there. I'm coming from that side. This is the church. People selling clothes to the church don't want them to leave. This is wickedness. This is wickedness. This is wickedness. Poor people struggling to survive. Poor people struggling to survive near the church. The church don't.
So in that clip that you just saw, people were being chased off the forecourt of a church that Paul Enenche built, or you saw the aftermath, should I say, of people being chased off the forecourt of a church that Paul Enenche built. So now that's the aftermath of an event that's taking place. But now let's go back and build up to that incident that you just saw. So now that church that you just saw, the Dunamis International Gospel Church that you just saw, that building that you just saw with the yellow bits on it, that's actually the largest church structure in the world. So that's the largest church structure in the world, and it was built by this fella Paul Enenche. So now what is the source of his wealth to own private jets and to build the biggest church in the world? So by building the biggest church in the world, of course, I'm not saying he has the largest congregation in the world. He doesn't, but he has the largest church structure in the world. So that church, I think, can hold well in excess of 100,000 people. I think that's the figure that is being bandied about, but you can correct me on that in the comment section if I got that wrong, but I don't think I did. So he has the largest church structure in the world. He flies around in a private jet. He abandoned a medical career to go into administration, and that administration, of course, is his main source of living. So now how is that money earned within that ministry? Well, that money, of course, earned within that ministry is not from some government donation, it's not from some benefactor, some mentor, it's not from some sponsor, but it's from the donations and the tithes and the offerings of your everyday member of that church. And who is that everyday member of that church? Well, your everyday member of that church are those people in the forecourt whose shops have now been burnt down and bulldozed down and crushed. So now, where is the Christianity in this is really where this question is leading to. So where's the Christianity in this? But we'll get there. So this is really something that really goes on within the Nigerian space. So a lot of these people just come under that banner of Christianity to play out a money grab, because it's effectively a money grab. So what could have played out alternatively in this scenario that we've just seen? So let's play devil's advocate for a moment. Okay, let's say, for instance, this Paul Enenche has built the largest church in the world in Abuja. I mean, that's an achievement. That's an achievement in itself. So let's leave everything else aside, but as a human endeavor and a piece of thing to do, is an achievement in itself. And it's an achievement also for us to be able to say that Nigeria has the largest church structure in the world. It's a thing that we can use internationally as a positive, that look, we have the largest church building in the world. So there's some positives in there. I'm not quite sure if it's all positives, but there are some positives that you can get from that. And having now built that largest church in the world, it is understandable then that he wants to keep the environment tidy and in keeping with what he has put down. There's some sense in that. There might not be all sense in that, and there's definitely an alternative argument to be had against that, but let's go with this chain of thought. Let's go with this strand of thinking. So he has put up this structure which is beautiful depending on what your aesthetics are. Personally, I don't find it appealing, but it's appealing to a lot of people. So let's just use the adjective beautiful to describe it. So he has put up this beautiful structure, and then obviously he wants the environs to look in keeping with what he has put down. And then you have these people eking out a living by selling whatever it is that they're selling in the forecourts, in the foreground, just off the building, just in the forefront of the building. So they make the place look untidy, effectively, is what we are saying. So you have these little shack shops springing up all around the church, making the church look untidy. This really is where the argument is. So now we take that also, still there's a logic to that. So then what then needs to happen next? So now let's recap a little bit. So we have Paul Enenche from a prominent family, trained doctor. He flies a private jet and he has built the largest church in the world. What does that mean? That means wealth. That means money. So this Paul Enenche really, to all intents and purposes and by all the evidence, is an extremely wealthy man. And the people then selling soft drinks and snacks in the foreground and just in front of his beautifully built, sparkly, spanking church, they are just everyday people. They are low-income people. They are people eking out a living to survive, to pay for the basics of life, and it's like a ground level style living. So you have extreme wealth on the one hand, and then in front, at the forecourt of that extreme wealth, you have extreme poverty. So now what then should take place? So you have the one option of hiring goons in uniforms to go and bulldoze down and beat down these people. Thank God they were not, physically attacked. So at least there's no indication that they were physically attacked. So you had that as one option. But then the other option that you have, bear in mind, there's extreme wealth and extreme poverty. This is what we're dealing with here. And then we have Christianity in the mix. So extreme wealth, extreme poverty, and Christianity in the mix. So then what then should have happened? You can see where I am building up to with this. What should have happened, of course, was for Paul Enenche or his administration or his team or whoever to have gathered these people and said, look, you are making this place look untidy. I can understand that you need to earn a living. What is the value of your trade? And then they'll double that and then give them the means to relocate. That is what should have happened. That is what should have happened. How much would that have cost them? 10 million, 20 million, 15 million, 30 million, even 40 million, let's say, if they want to be extremely generous. Because how many are these people? Maybe there are 10, 15, 20 people. What is the value of their items? Maybe 10 million, 20 million, whatever. Double it. Tell them they still keep their stock, but you are paying them the value of their trade for 2 years, so that will enable them to relocate. And then that way they're happy. They will pray for you and say, oh, kind man of God. You go away feeling happy that you've done the right thing. They'll go away feeling happy that they've had a windfall, but then you still make the front of your church look tidy. Maybe you buy up the space and turn it into a car park, and everything goes on and everything is smooth. But then 10, 15, 20, 40 million is a lot of money, isn't it, for a man with a private jet and the largest church not only in Africa or in Nigeria but in the world? Is it not a lot cheaper then for him to hire uniformed people, either in fake uniform or real uniform, to go and jackboot these people and bulldoze them down? Because the cost of that is 3-4 million, as opposed to the 40 million that he would have needed to have paid these people to have gathered them and paid them off and moved them on. So really, this is effectively what's transpired. This is what's played out in front of us, and this is what we're seeing play out. So now this is a man who is now claiming that he's a man of God, and we don't know exactly what God he is worshiping. Because when you hear the man of God, for instance, or the word God within the Nigerian context, you recoil sometimes, because you try and match the concept of God and the God that we understand and the God from the Bible to the antics and the beings of these people. So you look at people like this Enenche, and then you look at the understanding of God that you have, and you wonder if the two marry, and you see where's the convergence between those two spaces. So you have God Almighty as you know him, omnipotent, omnipresent, and then you have somebody like Enenche jackbooting poor people because they are making his premises look untidy. So you have God omnipresent, and then you have people like Apostle Johnston Suleiman hiring people from Canada as sex toys. You know, so this is the sort of things that we are seeing play out within the Nigerian sphere. And people will go to these places and then they will raise their voices, because of course where two or more are gathered, and they are going there to fellowship, not necessarily to worship the man at the pulpit, but really to use the premises as a conduit, as a pathway, as a gathering of like minds to as an outreach. Effectively, there is that element there. But then these people, these Enenches, these Johnston Suleimans, etc., these Alf Lukau, all these elements, all they're in it for is the money end. All they're in it for is the money end. We've seen the private jets, we've seen the sparkly, spanking new church, and we've seen poor people being jackbooted off the premises, even though it's these poor people that are actually putting their hands in their pockets to fill the coffers of these people to afford them this lifestyle that they live. And that is where the storyline is within the Nigerian Christendom. I just thought I'd bring this story to you guys just to see what you make of it. The preacher man at it again, jackbooting the poor. Nothing changes in Nigeria. The poor get beaten by the politician, they get beaten by the police. Now they're being beaten by the alleged man of I won't call him man of God, the preacher man who alleges that he has a calling which is obviously questionable. So that's where the storyline is now. What is your take on this storyline? Let's have conversations about preacher men and poor people in the comments section. But before we go have that conversation about preacher men and poor people in the comments section, click on the red subscribe button so it goes gray. Click on the bell button as well so you are notified as soon as I drop a new video. Now once you've done both, come join me in the comment section where this conversation carries on. So I'll leave you here and carry on this conversation with you in the comment section, and I'll say peace.